Yeah, we'd love for you to be one of the keynotes. And we have one location set, but we have three other locations that that we could also pull the trigger on. The one location that we've got set is would be max at 80 people, but I'm thinking now it's probably be maybe double that.
Okay.
so so yeah, so it'd be really powerful. And the crazy thing is that ever since let's see, I woke up in 2011 or rewoke or whatever. I want to say going back to 2008, that last week of May, particularly the 30th of May, have been like the biggest week of my year. And of course, the first part of that was kind of a descension. So I was either incarcerated or something happened. But the rest of it has just been, it's always a magnificent week. So it just turned out that, he offered that weekend. So that's a really, really powerful synchronicity. Hi, everybody. What do we got going here? We got 30, 47, 51. We're going to give it a couple minutes.
Yep. And meanwhile, I'm sharing at the same time. So
Yeah. So Franco, I'm
yeah.
going to let me tag you on this. So we've had some really interesting shows. We got here, we did a show Monday night. So today's Friday. So we've probably done, I don't even know, 12 shows maybe. And what's been amazing is, and I don't know what's going on, but I have talked about this for myself. We left on Saturday and we drove about, I don't know what it was, maybe 4 hours, and then we were going through Dallas, which was kind of my second home. And it was like, I don't know what the hell happened, but it was just like I mean, I was sweating. I lost like 6 or 8 pounds, sweating under my arms. My palms were sweaty. Morgan's taking pictures and flashing in the car, and I'm just trying to hold on white knuckle. And it just went on and on and on. And since that night, I have had, I mean, this is like ridiculous. I've had, Morgan's been pretty calm and cool, like I think she did it right before we left, but man, I mean, I've had some stuff go down. Now, we had two shows today, and last night I had all these lucid dreams, and I woke up in the middle of the night, and I said something, and Morgan, it's like 4 o'clock in the morning, and she's like, "What did you say?" And I said, but I didn't know what I said because I was coming out of lucid dream. I remember the lucid dream. She goes, "Well, you better tell me." So I ended up telling her some things, and it was like really strange because it was like the feminine in me wanting to speak and be heard. It was really crazy. And so this morning, and there's a lot more to it than that, but I mean, this morning I get on to do a show with a friend of mine from Greece, and I started crying. You know, I told Morgan last night, I'm like, I got to go do something. This is before we went to bed. I was like, because I feel like either fighting, fist fighting somebody, or effing, or crying. And I said, I'm very confused. And she goes, "Well, that's good." I said, "Yes, I do know it's good, but it's not helping me right now." So I went down to a little bar and had 2 beers and just chilled out. But yeah, so what I was going to say is that all the shows since Monday, they're I'm pretty good with the metrics and stuff, right? And all the shows since Monday, people are coming on and they're just latching on. And I'm not saying it's about me or the show. I'm just saying something's happening energetically, and you can see the ascent. Each show goes up to, like your shows typically do like 250 people, 300 people. Most of the shows will do anywhere from like, say, I'm talking live, 70 to say 125 on average. All these shows have gone past 125. Some have gone into 150, 175. But it's the energy that I'm trying to explain. People are, I don't know what it is, but so everybody's excited. I mentioned that we had the next show, and then we're going to close out with Franco today, and everybody's like, "Oh my God, that's perfect," right? So and even Morgan, because I walked in after the second show, which was another big one, and Morgan and I was like, "I don't know how I'm going to do this. This is just getting difficult," And she said, "Don't worry, Franco's coming on. He'll explain everything to you." so, so this is where we're at. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Angela says, "Oh man, what a
Hopefully
ride!"
we don't fry anybody while we're doing it.
Yeah,
This is it's
trying to
interesting because all of us are harnessing a lot more energy. So go ahead. Go ahead.
no. I was going to say, so look, the last time we talked was like 2.5, 3 weeks ago, and I remembered the conversation. It was a great conversation, and I was more like where Morgan is. I was more like everything's cool, I'm good, and then I got my ass handed to me on a platter. So, and I think from based on what I've seen on these shows, uh, I think a lot of people are feeling it. But yeah, go ahead. So it's all yours. Thank.
Yeah, no, I mean, we definitely can see how we're going through a very powerful energetic field again, and each time it's a little bit more different. So what we're going through now, and this will run till about the middle of March at this point in time, is really, it's actually opening up our illuminated eyes so that we're seeing actually beyond not only the veils, but all the projected versions and movies that we have created as what we call reality. Now, what this does, okay, the stuff that you've been experiencing, and this goes through a lot of other people. Now, there's several things that are happening. These new energies coming in are actually raising the vibration and also uh, creating enough changes in the people that are very active and committed to be impactful on the planet. They're actually reaching their another level of their super state, or what they call source state in human, or superhuman state in a sense. So what happens is your body's now adjusting to your body, to you as this field, not only carrying more energy, but also a lot more information within yourself. So, but at the same time, what happens is how can I say it? You're actually, darn, I'm trying to find a word for it. You're actually achieving the capacity of more transparency. And what I mean by that, you can now see more clearly whatever facade anybody's putting out, any facade that exists in the collective. You're actually seeing more right through it. You actually see the intent. You actually see the programs. Now, that happens a couple of things too. It also allows us to be able to see not only the roles that we have been playing, and also that we have adopted as a way of life more clearly. We're less reactive to it.
Yeah.
But we can see it much more clearly, so that what really is, you're actually stepping into a state more and more of seeing this is the game, and not only just the game, you can see the projection of it all. So you remember what I had said, that we're going into this disclosure. Well, this is a different form of disclosure. This is about having sort of X-ray eyes of sort. I'm just using that as an analogy.
Right.
To be able to see what's really happening. So even if we bought into any narratives or anything like that, even stuff like feminine, masculine, whatever else, because feminine, masculine was really merged. It was one whole unit. It was separated. So that we're now seeing it when we're having this because of the separation. So when the feminine is coming in now, for people that have not experienced it, it's only just trying to create a balance, but also bring forth anything that we have kind of denied and put aside because, oh, that's feminine energy, I'm not going there, feminine operating system. Now that's coming out so that the unexpressed is being expressed so that it can merge, and then there's no longer that so-called masculine, feminine in one unit. You see the wholeness of the whole thing. So it's all balanced. So you can, it's not okay, women feel this way, can respond this way, can be emotional this way, can see certain things we can't see. That was an illusionary thing that was created through the experience. So now those layers are dissolving many more. So this is why it's creating that balance. Now, the transparency part, where you're now able to see the game for what it is, the game, first of all. Second of all, you can see your participation in the game. You could also see more clearly the roles that you have taken on, and be able to see that the roles are not you. They are just the role. And the role is something that you may have played, but you no longer define yourself or label yourself by the roles. So if you're stepping into, say, your family dynamics, and you automatically go into a default of playing a particular role because that's how they expect to see you or whatever, that's your perception, because it doesn't matter what they want. They're there just to display that you can fall into it or not, to really discover.
Right.
You can see it, and then you can say, oh, that's the role I've been playing. Now I could choose to reshape that so I don't have to go into that role any longer. So you're able to see more of that. And then, like I said right at the beginning, we can also see, our stories, our programs as that, rather than associating with it, because most of us have defined and labeled ourselves as our stories, our programs, what happened, what didn't happen, good, bad, right, wrong. But now it's becoming much more clearly. But at the same time, like I was saying, there are many that have taken made a commitment to be a very powerful conduit. You're going to feel some pretty strong energies coming through you that will create some stimulation within your whole field, your whole essence. So you're going to feel hot, you're going to feel cold, you're going to feel emotional, you're going to feel this, but everything is so quickly moving through at the same time, because you're getting turned on. You're getting turned on to more of that sourceness within the body. So this is some of the things that are going on. Now, of course, we're also noticing that there's tremendous amount of energy that's coming out from the planet and everything else. But this that's taking place right now is to facilitate us to move forward. Because if you look at it, Todd, and I'm sure you recognize, if you look at the world, okay, you see all the craziness that's going on. Doesn't matter where in the world you are, regarding, the governmental levels, whatever else, the systems, the corporations, whatever, and also these health projected issues. It almost seems like so many people are so into it that to pull out of it, it seems impossible. So what we're receiving right now is assistance to be able to no longer solidify and attach to the same degree as before with whatever's going on. And this is one of the things that's happening now, the clarity, or at least more, and everybody's affected one way or another. Everybody's getting some form of more clarity of whatever's going. Depending on where you're at, you're going to get more. So you're able to see all of the stuff that's going on as play, and it doesn't trigger you to the point of going, oh, this is too much, I'm frustrated, whatever it is. Oh, the wrong person got in. Oh, look at what the lies are saying. You can now smile and laugh at it. And I don't mean laugh because you want to make fun of it. It's just because it seems humorous. And also at the same time, while you're feeling humorous, you feel empowered, because it's like, oh, it's just, we can just shape that instantaneously. It's easy. It becomes play. And this is what's being stimulated right now for many of us. And as that is going on, you're going to notice that, a lot of the people are going to feel that I can't grasp onto anything that I've held on to before. But at the same time, they're also feeling, yeah, I'm okay with the ride, whatever the wave is going to be. There's a sense of knowing, even though we've always had it, but that sense of knowing is coming more to the surface, right?
Yeah.
We're becoming illuminated. So if you're committed, your vibration is going to be much more impactful. Now, the thing that you had said earlier, the reason people are gravitating more to higher level of content, like these type of gatherings that we're doing right now,
Right.
is because they're also now looking at it and they can sense the difference between the two and they can resonate with one more than the other. It doesn't matter what the ego mind, because the ego mind's going to say, oh no, it's important to know what's going on in the world. Well, now you're seeing this as, oh, it's just a facade, a game, whatever it is. And it's also there to help me discover my attachments to it, or whatever it is. But now I also have a confirmation that I'm feeling that I need to explore. And I'm going now look at this other type of content that's actually triggering that knowing. So the ego mind is wanting to get confirmation from the stories that are created through the media and whatever else that's going on and the game of life that we've attached to. And the knowing part is going, no, I want to explore this part because this is where I'm going. So even that conflict is actually losing its power and it's becoming merging and it's seeing the whole dance. So that's kind of a snippet of what's going on.
Yeah, I was saying that to one of the girls on the previous show, not exactly in those words, but what I was trying to put out was that I'm seeing a lot of things, they're losing their traction. And not just the stuff on the world stage, even like, certain presences or platforms, people, ideas, groups, websites. I mean, I'm watching, they're not sustaining them. They're losing momentum. And it's not a bad thing, but I think it's exactly what you're saying. I think what's happening is, let's just call it the get real frequency or the whatever, you know what I mean? Just the real stuff, right? Not to make comparisons or lend to separation, but it's just like, I don't know. That's what I'm feeling. That's what I was saying. Well, and I even said it to Morgan, well, why are these people, why is the live viewers keep ramping up all week? And I feel like it's just the beginning of a continuous kind of wave, being a micro of what's happening collectively.
Well, the thing is too, people are not getting the answer. I shouldn't say the answer so much, but they're not connecting with the energies of whatever's going on. And then they can feel, look at it this way. The moment you are transmitting, okay, just the intent alone, before you even turn on, let's go live,
Right.
okay, they sense an energy. And it's like a beacon call going beep, 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 beep. Let me find where that is. And then they're now pulled to that energy because that energy, that information or content or whatever you want to call it, actually is like food for the true part that wants to come out. And it's the true part that's already on its progress of coming out. So here it is. It's like, let me find this. And this is one of the things, like if you noticed, this has been going on for a while. A lot of people were just watching the mainstream media stuff at first. Then this alternative started to grow tremendously compared. So even like places like some of the real mainstream that's been around like 50 years or whatever it is, their audience was dropping and dropping and dropping, and the ones of the alternative have been increasing. Now, of course, some of the tech stuff has been trying to censor that, but you notice that because that doesn't resonate anymore. They want more of that. But there's also at the same time the other distractional and stuff that's going on now is looking for this type of stuff that we're sharing right now and that you are sharing or people are sharing with you when you're doing all the different shows. And this is like, okay, now the movement, because this is going to keep growing. It's going to grow substantially as we keep going forward. Because what happens is the shows that you're doing and others that are doing whatever, including the stuff I do, actually is like a home frequency because it's really there to trigger their true home frequency within them. So the other stuff makes them the mind may be appeased by it because of seeing whatever it is, but it doesn't feel grounded. So let's call it this way. The information, the energies, because it's not just the information, the energies and the codes that are being shared as it's communicated, and bringing the combinations of people coming on, actually creating a self-grounding stimulation within themselves. And this is why. So you'll notice that this is going to continue to grow because
Feels like it. Yeah.
it feels like, okay, I'm ready now. You know, I've played there, but I'm ready. Because there's been a lot of people that have been in the spiritual community as labeled that, you know, kind of been you know, playing with it off and on, whatever it is, and, you know, can get caught up in a lot of the other stuff. But now they want to connect with stuff that is more solid, much more supercharged for them, because there's a thirst for it now. There's a, like, okay, I need to connect. That's why people talk about, I want to connect with like-minded people, because then I can feel more exchanging and more at home with those people. But, you know, as much as we can't always do that, these platforms and content that we're putting in is actually providing a level of that, because and look at it, the variety of people that come on, the variety of viewpoints and so forth that are coming in, each one of them is assisting in some way or another, stimulate some pretty powerful transformations within them.
Yeah. Yeah, and another thing too, which, you know, my story with the whole network and website, you know, start stop, and of course we've talked about it on the show, and it's something that's been prevalent in the light worker community is people, but the whole thing is this thing about forcing anything, right? Like you can't force anything, like the universal energy. That's anchored in or anchoring in and expanding, we just won't allow it. And so it's surrender, a lot like our personal journeys. But yeah, what you just said, I've been feeling for like the last 2 weeks, you know, I've been like, why do I keep seeing this? Because it's going to happen. Like you don't have to, it's beyond your control. It's inevitable. Just take a chill pill and go to work. You know, and you might even cut back to 2 shows a day, 5 days a week, or, you know, like it's just, it's non-linear. I guess that's what I'm saying. It's a non-linear, no deadline type of schedule construction effort. You know, it's a building effort. It's just not linear. And I think that's one of the other characteristics, at least that's something I'm picking up on.
Yeah. So the thing is, Todd, is that you create the platform, or you create the vehicle for people to connect to share whatever it is, and the thing that we do is we make it available. It's like you turn on the light, like this light. What do they call it? Light tower? No.
Yeah, light tower.
Is it?
Isn't it?
No,
Like
lighthouse. You turn on the lighthouse, right?
Don't ask me.
You're illuminating it. Whoever's drawn to it and wants to use it uses it, but it's not saying, oh, I gotta flash it directly to certain people out there to make sure I bring them in. No, you are just there, and then when they're ready to go closer to that higher energy, that frequency, that illumination, then they will. Now, I've been doing this for a long time, Todd. Over 35 years. It's since 85. So it's like something like 36 years. So, but the thing is, I've watched it change. Not only the content, because, you know, there's certain content I could not share. The stuff I talk about now, I could not talk about 35 years ago, 30 years ago, 25 years ago.
You're from the highest tree.
You know, I still gave the most purest possible. So it's not ever been tainted or anything of that nature. Like it still was that. I just didn't go as deep because people weren't ready. Because I used to hear from people, oh man, I have to process this. You know, it's too much. But I would go gentle. But when I wanted to say, I just kept putting content out. I still worked with people, whatever it is, whoever came. I never advertised. I never promoted. I never whatever. Now, the thing is, people would tell other people, whatever it is. And even though I was doing a lot more sessions before and whatever, people just came because they knew or felt, okay, this is what I'm ready for. But it was up to them. And I have family members, I have people that I know what I've been doing for 35 years. And they still, to this day, have no interest. And that's okay.
Yeah.
It does not matter. Did I ever go twist their arms or anything like that? If they ask me a question, I will provide them whatever. But the thing is, this applies to everybody. So you just put it out there, you shine your light. And this is what's happening too, Todd. That's a good an example there. As we're going along, the light gets actually brighter. That energy is more far reaching. And it's actually felt, even though it's felt before, but it may have been diluted with all the other stuff, it's felt more clearly across the world in that whole collective field, so that the doorway is open wider and it's more far reaching. And then it's up to people to say, okay, I'm now going to connect with that because I'm ready for that part of it. And that's really what's going on in that regards. And things are going to blow up. When I say blow up, expand even further in the next several months or so.
Well, and it's affecting the moment by moment experience. Like, people talk about being present. Like we've talked about this. You and I've talked about this. It's just like we're being forced to be more present. But what I'm getting at is like this thing that you talked about with the transparency. It's another thing. Another way I see it happening is people's belief systems are crumbling. They're getting egg on their face. They're saying this and they're saying that, and it's got to be this way and it's got to be that way, and this narrative's got to be right. And now I see a lot of backpedaling, which is perfect. Like you can see like an expansion, contraction, like a pendulum kind of go like that. And you know what I mean? You can see that it's being centralized, and you can see it through individuals. So like we can't, like the girl that was on before this, she said, I went into a 6-month hibernation and I in her own words, she was saying the same thing. I was no longer, now that I could see the BS, was going to give my power over to it, nor was I going to give my power over to my own BS, So it was like her version of being transparent. And then not only did she go through a lot of trauma last year, and we're talking a couple of murders, and we're talking about some really serious stuff. When she did this and she got offline and went in hibernation for 6 months, her entire life changed. She was given a house, a big house. She reunited with the father. I mean, just like a fairy tale, Do you think that those two things run together? I mean, as the more we stick to our guns with what's true, to thine own self be true, the more perfect manifestations occur.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is, too, what you just said regarding the fact of, whatever people have been sharing and made an attachment or a dependency or an expectation from, it was really to promote a more accentuated, what do you call it? Sometimes just words don't even come in my head.
I know. I'm in the same boat.
But okay, so a disempowerment for saying, okay, I'm waiting for all of this stuff to happen, events and people to be empowered when things are going to change. So the reason we gave ourselves that opportunity to have that experience is that so that we could see that, hey, wait a minute, the truth is, and when I say the truth, what is really coming forth is that we are the ones that are going to make the changes and so forth. It's no longer about what I'm hearing or the fact I'm waiting for certain things. And one of the wake-up calls, and this is why a lot of people have put a lot of power in certain individuals or groups. It's going to be okay. Even, our brother, sister souls and whatever else. But the purpose of all of that was not to deceive, was to show, hey, wait a minute. if you're going to put that and just sit back and really just wait for things to change, that's not how it works. We're here to work together.
Yeah.
Now, like the person that you were saying on the show before, when you disconnected, when she pulled off for 6 months and no more getting all this other information, it gave her the opportunity to look within herself, connect with herself, and be able to shed this whole thing. It's like a realization that I am that creator,
Yeah.
and that in fact
Right.
there's nothing to wait for, and I'm okay to experience. So once that happens, then that creator part of it starts to change everything around you, because everything around you is of your own makeup. And now it becomes more alignments to be supportive, because now the grander use is unfolding. And the best way to display that and to play out that role more powerfully is to get into that clear state, and that what we call empowered state. And now, see, this is the whole thing. We see, there was a lot of expectation of things to go a certain way, and there was a preference, but the preference had to alter. Why did it alter? Because the thing is, there was so much sitting back and creating so much reliance and dependency for certain things to come out. And what happened is the real exploration of who we are that is wanting to emerge, that empowered being, that creator being, is not being exercised to be able to come to the surface. When this disappointed came in because it didn't play out that way, and that had to change. That was a collective agreement. It was like, this is a lower preference, and this is a higher preference. But then the ratio started to change, and it started to change because of the fact that more and more people were putting so much more reliance to go a certain way. And even this whole secondary and third lockdown, whatever, it was about, okay, well, we didn't stop to realize that, hey, wait a minute, we're the ones that can change this. We're the ones that can redirect this. So let's get another taste of it. It wasn't because things went awry. It's because it's like collectively saying, I think we need a little bit more stimulation here.
Yeah, I saw that. It's like if you had okay, I'm going to say this. I hope people understand it. Like if you were following, for instance, a pro-Trump narrative or hope, right? Because you didn't want to deal with what the alternative was. I watched the energies. They each became each other at an energetic level. I know not on a literal basis, but they actually became each other. It was really crazy, it really was. And the other thing that I start seeing happening was, energetically speaking, people detaching from death. Now this is energetics, okay? And as an example, I just heard a story from Morgan. We haven't heard anything about Melbourne. I don't look. And she hasn't mentioned anything. And apparently yesterday, of course that's where they had all the big, most of the propaganda was coming out of Melbourne, for a couple, 3-4 months, right? So evidently yesterday, at the drop of the hat, they went on the emergency broadcast system. So everybody get home. We're on lockdown. You got 30 minutes to get home. So the next thing that happens, because remember, if anyone followed any of that stuff going on over there in Victoria, anytime there was a demonstration, the cops came in and took everybody out. Mm-hmm. The next thing you know, there's footage of thousands of people standing around Parliament, and to top it off, there's cops there. And every now and then, evidently the cops would step forward and say, okay, I think y'all have done enough. You need to go home now. And everybody's just like, no, we're not going nowhere. Mm-hmm. So that's what I mean by this energetic detachment from death. And to me, that's a big one. Like you've seen little bits and pieces of it as people say, okay, I'm going to leave this relationship, I'm not worried about, I don't have a job or have money, or making these decisions where they're negating their lack and limitation and scarcity. But this is different. This one's different. One quick story too. We're over here in my hometown. So we went out to eat twice. Now we're also on the road, and we've been in Arkansas. We don't go out much, but you go in, you put a mask on, you walk through the restaurant, you sit down, right? You take the mask off. So we that's pretty much how it is. So the second night we were here, we went and met someone, and we went into this restaurant, and nobody had a mask on. The staff didn't have a mask on. The cooks, the manager, nobody had a mask on. And I'm thinking, whoa. And of course, the atmosphere and the energy was like night and day.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, this whole thing about the social distancing and the masking and so forth, if you really look at it, it's actually to stimulate our natural state. As odd as that sounds, it's not. What is our natural state? Todd, and anybody else listening. Where does it feel more comfortable? When you're around people and there's no barriers? When you're around people, you can hug, you can talk, you can exchange, you can feel each other in the sense of, feeling each other's natural state and so forth. Because that's how we flourish. That's our natural state. So it elevated that separation because a lot of people did not appreciate, in a sense, and I don't mean appreciate like everybody likes to label it, appreciate, didn't give enough focus on how valuable it was to be able to embrace, to communicate, to share with people, to be in their presence. I notice it myself. Like I haven't done a live event for a while. Like it's almost 2 years now.
Wow.
Well, okay, a year and a half. Yeah, I do live stream, but
you haven't done a live in local.
Local, yes. It was July of 2019. August, when we had the 7-day retreat, was the last live event. Now I've had some small groups and stuff like that at my place, which is great, after that. But at the same time, it feels so much grander, more expansive to have people with you and to hug, embrace, and to share, and to see the beauty, the emotions, all of the play. And that's the thing. So now when the masks drop, you feel not only freer, but you feel more natural. You'll notice that it's like, wow, I'm actually breathing more than I could breathe before. And when I say breathe, I'm talking about breathe in the energies, the beautiful connections. Like you said, you go there, now it's like, wow, the energy feels different.
Yeah.
Because it's that open. And now you have a higher appreciation for it and more of an attraction to that. And it's almost like once you start to get that taste again, try to go backwards. Yeah. It doesn't matter how much fear is projected. You're going to say, I don't care. Because look at this. You said something very instrumental here. You said about death, the fear of death. Okay. That fear of death, why is it there? It's been projected for so long because as long as you're afraid of death, injury, and so forth, whatever you want to call it, you do not live life.
Yeah.
Okay? You're not living life. You create a simulation, limited, boxed in, properly constructed. And this is the whole idea of being afraid of the unknown. Right? That's all projected. It's not natural. Our natural state is not to have fear. It's to, or even to consider death, because the more you consider that, the less you live. You came here to live. You came here to experience. You came here to share. That is your natural state. And that's what we're doing to ourselves in these higher levels of restrictions, so that we actually say, it does not matter. I don't care what's out there. Okay? Because what's out there is our makeup and we can change it. But at the same time, I want to live now. I want to enjoy every part of my life. And now the other kicker here is, it's not about living life how we knew it, living life in a richer, expand. It doesn't mean a life with more stuff, a life that has more meaning, a life that has more substance, because we're enjoying, we're growing, we're feeling life, we're expanding within it, and you have a higher recognition of yourself and the recognition of others, which are other aspects of ourselves. So this is the other part that's coming up. So the coming forth, and like you said, I mean, it was beautiful there about the fear. It's actually breaking down. So even like when you went to the restaurant, it's like, it doesn't matter anymore. We're not doing this anymore. We're going to be free. We're going to enjoy each other. We're going to create an environment where we feel comfortable. And you will notice that energy will grow.
Yeah.
The thing is, a lot of people are afraid to even talk to each other. They're going to talk to each other much more as we move along.
And it does grow. The funny thing was, I went to the store last night, and it was right next to the restaurant. And I pulled out of the store, and there was a church on the corner, and it said services on Sunday, masks are optional. And I thought, whoa, because the few places that we'd gone, everybody had a sign up. In fact, there was even, I guess, like a city sign that was up, one of those traffic signs that blinks, and it said masks are required in all businesses. So here's a church that's right around the corner. I mean, you know what I'm saying, metaphorically speaking, it's contagious, right?
Yeah. And the thing is, you're going to see people that are going to be coming to, say, the services or whatever it is. And, you know, some will have masks, some will not. But at some point, even the ones that are going to have masks are going to feel uncomfortable because they really, from a true sense, the false idea that the mask protects you doesn't seem to have the same impact, especially with these energies going in and everything else. We're realizing it's like, no, I'm not going to wear it. And once you take it off, it's such a freeing experience. It's not just because you can breathe better. It's just because you do not have to hide behind anything. You do not need to protect you or anything. There's also a realization that, wait a minute, I'm going to have whatever experience I choose to have, and I don't have to have any so-called negative experience and so forth. That realization comes really to the surface in a big, big way.
Yeah. Yes, but yeah, it's like anything like this, just, you said it a minute ago, it's like a false flag frequency, really. You know, it's like people kind of wised up to that, you know, and when these things happen, it's just, we don't look at it the same. There's no traction. There's no growth in like, you know, a mask or a corn. They're just, people are not buying it. And I don't know how conscious we all are of it, because I don't want to put myself in a different category, but it doesn't even matter because it's happening. Like being in that restaurant, there was one person that had a mask, and he had a kind of a big mask. So he may have even had another issue. I don't know, but he looked like a fish out of water. And it was almost like being like walking into another dimension.
Yeah. Yeah.
After having been in this for a year now.
And you're going to find that people that, I say, in that environment where nobody's wearing a mask and one wears a mask, you know, once or twice or three times that they evolve themselves or mingle amongst that, they're going to drop it. It's just like, I don't want to wear this either, you know, and it's so much freeing for them. And really the whole exercise of it is not, you know, the fact I have the mask or don't have the mask, because really, like you said, people don't internally know, hey, I'm just buying into this, whatever it is, but it's not really. And I know some people, you know, when it said, well, you know, if we don't have the mask, this and that, you know, you're jeopardizing people's lives or anything of that nature. Well, that's the story in itself, because really, when you're connecting with that whole thing, I mean, you take some professionals, the ones that actually did research, you know, and I may have said it in one of the other shows, and I know I talk about it, but even they've said, you know, the masks is like you trying to stop the mosquitoes from coming into your backyard by putting a chain link fence up.
Yeah.
You know? Because it doesn't stop anything, because what's going around is even smaller than any filtration system, unless
it'd be like wearing a mask for the plague.
Yeah.
if it were really a plague. But that's a whole nother. That's a whole nother.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you this too. So, what I want to make sure that I get this right. So now, what we're going through now, which is a greater sense of transparency in what we're looking at externally and actually ourselves, goes until the middle of March, right?
Yes, and it's going to continue. But
Okay.
right now, it's mainly focused for a month's period that started about the middle. That started a little while ago, actually, and it's going to continue, and it's just increasing. The other thing you noticed, which you said right at the beginning, is the dream state too.
Yeah.
The dream state, specifically the last several days, have just
Yeah.
changed. Now, if you are active in the sense of saying playing a powerful role, you're going to notice that you're going into simulated worlds and you're going into potential projected worlds. And you're not only experiencing, but you're transforming it just by observing it and holding that energy of yourself. And while you're there, you actually become more empowered because of the fact that you see that this is not to be given power to. And
Yeah.
in fact, it doesn't even serve any longer.
Right.
And others are, are now on steroids of sort. When I say steroids, I'm playful with the words, on the dream state so that it actually would bring up any back end stories, programs, and so forth, and unfinished business and move so quickly through it because a lot of times we can't simulate it so well in our external environment because everything moves a lot slower and there's a lot of different blends of energies going on and different narratives and whatever else. But in the dream state, it opens that up. So there's even more freedom to really bring it to.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Happened to me last night. I woke up saying something. I wasn't conscious that I said it. She repeated what I said, and then but I did remember because I was literally, and I can resonate with both of those examples that you're talking about in terms of the dream state. And another thing that happened, and I'm glad you said the last few days because I'm so I don't feel like the Lone Ranger, but
4 days
so
to be exact.
4,
Yeah.
okay, well, yeah. I mean, yes, whatever you say, I can't even but one of the things that happened was about 4 days ago, by the way, I had this big ball of energy just like blast me like a cannonball. And it lodged in my body between my solar and my sacral. And then I start talking to Morgan about it as usual. And I'm like, hey, and she's like, well, because I said it felt very external, right? And I know it's not because I know it's all me, but it sure felt that way. And so she's like, well, did you check in with the energy? And I had been kind of, and I say kind of because it was actually already showing me. So what I was, instead of getting like a storyboard, image board type of thing, or a phrase or a word, uh, it was all I could see was the cellular in my body and these hairs coming off of it that were like lit up, and then ultimately DNA with that same, what do you call them? The things that stick up. Not
Toenail?
that I
Yeah.
don't even know, but the whole thing, and I kept looking. I said, "This is what I'm seeing," you know, and like I know it's telling me something, but I don't know what the hell it's telling me. And then as time went on, I realized that it was like an ignition, like somebody had started the car, right? And maybe these particular parts of the vehicle, the organic vehicle, had not all been firing, and they were all firing, you know. And then I finally figured it out after a while that this is right down to the DNA. So, but yeah, so the reason I bring that up is because several people this week have mentioned about the body, but not like the body like we've talked about over the last few months, like not even about the body communicating, although this part of it was communication. So it's not like that what we talked about. Not that that's going away, but yeah, antenna is the perfect description, right? But they were talking about some changes. What I guess the way I would summarize it is that they're really feeling the changes of a transformation at a biological cellular atomic level. Does any of that
Yes,
line
absolutely.
up with you?
Yeah, absolutely. And you want to hear something very interesting because you just brought up a really good. Remember what you just said about this ball of energy with the antennas and everything else you're bringing back in. Uh, it isn't coming outside of you. It was always you
Yeah.
that you took it and put it aside because it was too much to be able to play the game that you needed to play, to have that much energy, that much DNA activation, that much energetic consciousness, and be able to play the world game that you've played. So you've taken pockets of these or balls of energy and left them in the field, which is the field is you anyways, but you put it in the field and say, I'm not going to embody that until we are ready for it. So you got to the next stage of readiness. So you took that energy back and you plugged it back into you. And that started to not only re-energize you, but to reactivate much more of your capacities and levels of communication and your energy field. First of all, because the people you're interacting with will be more relatable to that because they weren't before. If you had it in before, it's just too much. And then at the same time, you're now more ready to step up and play a more powerful role. So you say, okay, the energetics, as much as it's polarized, whatever it is, there's so much more readiness for that energy. So I'm going to plug that thing that I put in myself, but it's you brought in that higher level of yourself and you plugged it in. So it's actually creating a firing throughout every cellular structure and a restimulation and encoding and activating the DNAs with you and changing the construct so that you actually can not only harness more energy, you can radiate more energy, more consciousness, much more clarity. And this also allows you to even access more of your knowing at the same time. So that was perfect that you said, because you knew it wasn't outside of you coming in. It was you that you put
Yeah,
this
I knew it was
breaking it
me. Yeah. And I knew like as the story goes, you know, and I just told her I felt it. I felt like it was external, knowing it's not external, but it actually started about a day before I started this trip. So it would have been Friday, and it was small, and then it got to a certain point when I arrived where it literally hit me like a cannonball,
in.
like I'm on my knees, crawling around, and I had a couple of early in this period, I had a couple of very, very queasy on my, on the floor in the bathroom, like, am I going to vomit? That, stuff going on. So I was very aware because Morgan and I were very connected during this period, and we are still. But I mean, there was some intense stuff happening with the manifestation of ourselves with each other, and my God, it was just like it was a lot of energy. It was a lot of energy, and it's still there. To be honest with you,
It's going to do, and it's going to expand. But you know what your soul said while you were talking about it?
what?
You haven't seen anything yet.
Oh, yeah, I
There's
know.
more. There's
I
more.
know. I've been surrendering my ass off. Believe me, I've been surrendering. I've been, and I want to do it right now. But and look, I'm in this crazy multiple alignment. Like, I mean, I was born here, uh, and where my friend lives was just open when I was a kid. My mom, it was a national seashore, had just been purchased from the King Ranch. And so my mom was one of their first employees. So we would come out here. So what I'm getting at is, so there's some geographical kind of grid oriented alignments, retracing the steps. Haven't seen my kids, being a typical light worker. There was some estrangement. There was this, there was that. I go out, and twice, I went out by myself. I went to go get some tacos. I see this man. My dad lives around here. We haven't talked in years. And I see this man. I said, that looks like my dad. And it wasn't my dad. And I kind of knew it. Then I went last night to have a couple of beers and try to chill out, when I went to the store. And there's a man on the other side of the bar that looks exactly like my dad. And I'm looking at him, and I got my glasses, and I'm trying to see him. But yeah. Oh, there was something that she just reminded me. Let's see. Yeah, here we go. Yeah, so I got all this stuff coming into alignment, and she keeps saying to me, this is important. This is important. I'm like, yeah, I do, but it just won't stop coming. It's like a bunch of dominoes being stacked on top of each other, or that game where you pull the stuff out. Several nights ago, I forgot to bring this up. So several nights ago, and I'm going to say this is about 10 days ago. Was it? Maybe she'll correct me. No, it wasn't even that long ago. It was in this period that you're talking about. In fact, I think it commenced, would have been Saturday night. We were offered to merge with our light body, and it did, and we said yes, and it was incredible. It was very incredible. I saw, for instance, when it came into my cellular, it basically showed me right away that there can be no disease. That with this merging, there is no disease. There is rejuvenation. There's just none of that stuff, right? None of these biological, physical afflictions or whatever you want to call it. Then we were told there are 10 more etheric bodies. You can merge with them, but don't try to do them all at once. And from there, like I said, the interactions that Morgan and I have had, of course, follow the contour, of what you're talking about at a hugely deep, resonant level, to the point where, I'm literally about to pull what little hair I got to lift out, because it's been that confronting to me, and it's happening so rapidly. And like I said yesterday, I wanted to either hit somebody, love somebody, or cry. And I could not shake it. And from the inside out, there's a constant, there's like a constant just vibration of each cell.
Well,
Can you shed any light on that?
You're purging a lot of old stuff too, and then the merging of these etheric bodies and so forth, and there has to be room for that. And when I say room, it's not like you're limited in space, but to hold that energy, all of this older stuff. And what you're doing where you are right now is allowing any form of completion and any stagnant energies and any barriers you've created, saying, okay, I'm not going to see these individuals, or I have an issue with these individuals, or even some of the old memories and emotional charges and whatever else in that area. It's really to bring that light of yours there, because you're there, and you're allowing all of that stuff to dissolve, and even any particular impression or perception or idea of whatever it meant, that journey before, starts to dissolve. So you're opening up to a point where you're a loving being, and everything around you is going to reflect that. So even if you connected with your dad and whatever else, and this is kind of one of the things, it's like, what did I have with dad that really impeded whatever it is? You're not going to see the game anymore that was played at that time, and the polarities and the meanings of that. You can just see love. Yeah. You're going to see an appreciation of an aspect of yourself that played very specific roles, and you both played specific roles for the opportunity of growth, but you cannot do anything but love from that state anymore. And then it changes everything. It doesn't mean that there's a unification of sorts where, your best buddies or anything of that nature. That's optional. But at the same time, all of that, as it opens up, wherever you are, there is nothing of discomfort anymore. There's only love.
Yeah.
Only love.
That's right. That's what it feels like. In fact, the last lucid dream that I had when I woke up this morning was my brother, who I haven't seen or spoken to since 2015. He was in the dream with my other brother, and Morgan, of course. And there was a snake, and I grabbed the snake. But metaphorically speaking, translation wise, what you're saying is true. There was no animosity. There was no nothing. There was no discussion of let's bury a hat. There was nothing. It was just pure, like a pure experience, unblemished. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. This is the thing. I mean, for us to really experience ourselves much more powerfully, all of the stuff that we are still, put layers of ourselves that, some of us still carry, and some people carry a lot of it, is really coming to part of that uh, transparency. That's the word.
Mm-hmm.
Transparency is to see, oh, look at what I'm carrying. Look what I'm still holding on to. Look where I feel my discomfort, so that you could actually now, first of all, you acknowledge it. You have to go in, you go into a state when you see it in your truest, highest aspect of yourself. You see everything in appreciation and you see everything with love. Then all of that just kind of dissolves, because really what you're creating, because let me bring that one thing that you said way in the beginning of this conversation. You said a thing about being present. I'm going to talk about it tomorrow in my next episode on the Advancing Consciousness series. I'm going to actually do a process. But being present, okay, is very powerful. But, and I say that, we want to also notice, what are we present with? Are we present in absolute clarity and openness, or are we present in looking and still judging what's there? Okay. If we're bringing in the present, the past, or stories, whatever, or discomfort of future, or whatever it is, then we are present, but we're not in our pure state of present, because pure state of presence sees what's there, has no attached meaning to it, but also sees, how do I use this?
Yeah.
How can I
Yes.
expand in this?
Yes.
Then you would see how much opportunities that creative part of you really expands in a powerful way. So the presence is in your essence. So
Yeah.
presence in your essence. And your essence does not affiliate with whatever happened or didn't happen, what you think or whatever it is. It's just presence of your essence. And your essence is pure creator, pure creation. And so you're basically in spirit, and spirit is source in action, source in creation, source in experiential. Okay, so that's what spirit is, because there's a difference between source and spirit, and it's all the one and the same, because source did split up and create spirit, and spirit was the creator action. We're all spirit, we're all source. So when you're going into that moment, and in that moment, without any of the other filters, and it takes a bit of practice to do so. In that moment, without the filters, the possibilities and potentialities and the expansionness and the true creation state, it becomes more tangible. It becomes clearer, and so forth. And you get to see yourself. You get to see the true self, or the expanding self. You're not seeing the older version of self. Because the thing is, too, just to backtrack a little bit more, and you brought up the whole election stuff and whatever else. Didn't matter which party came about. Like you say, okay, this individual versus that individual. Okay. Neither one of the solution. Yes, one would create a certain environment, which was, more conducive, more stimulating in a certain way. But the thing is, the realization that we're starting to have, the solution is not in either parties. The solution is us to look at and say, how do I experience this world of ours? How do I experience myself? What do we create that does not have the construct of the old? Because it doesn't matter which way we look at it, it's still
Right.
projecting an inverted matrix, an inverted 3D, which we have chosen collectively to say we're wrapping that up.
Yeah.
We're moving into organicness, organic utilization of the organic matrix, the organic 3D, and organic 5D state of being. Because in its organic state, what already exists does not resonate.
Right.
It's a matter of saying, okay, we're not going to deny it. We're not going to judge it. We're not going to say, this is horrible. We're going to look at it and say, okay, this is what we have to play with. We have learned from this. We have the opportunity, but now let's go in and let's collaborate to create something that it feels natural to us, because it doesn't matter if everybody got jobs and there was prosperity and then there's all this harmony and so forth. Are we still expressing ourselves in our natural state, or are we still buying into?
It's not going to change anything. It's not going to change anything.
Exactly.
I could give a few examples of that, but you know, we've all had that thing where when I marry this person, or when I get this job, or when I move into my own house, everything's going to be, you know, whatever, at a higher frequency, and it doesn't. It doesn't. Yeah, what you're talking about is it's just no stone is unturned. Okay, so like there's nothing that's going to persist, that's going to survive, that's from the old world. It's just not going to happen. And it's, you know, and another thing, and every single thing is accelerating and being amplified. This is the way I'm seeing it. Okay, and it is trying on the body, and you know what I mean. For instance, manifestation. I thought I knew what manifestation was. I thought I'd done a pretty decent job. I thought my learning curve was halfway decent, and maybe it was in proportion to where I was at that point. Because here's another thing that's changing. You wake up the next day, a bunch of energy waves came in over the previous 2 or 3 days. The next thing you know, you're standing in a different world, and none of the communication and none of the practices and none of the behavior, none of them apply. So you're like starting from nothing. But what I have noticed is that each time that happens, there's a higher level of a dialogue or connection or communion that I'm able to understand, that is a very fresh and new language that I guess I'm remembering, and I get it. But it doesn't. It presents itself. I'll give you an example. 3 nights in a row, I had pretty much the same routine. I was going through my life, and things are presenting themselves, and I just spend a few minutes alone at night, you know, by myself. This is just something I do, and so the wheels are going right, and I'm going, oh wow. I've never watched this before like this. I'm actually watching my imagination. Now, to your point earlier, what can I do with this? So I actually started to run simulation 1, simulation 2, simulation 3. I'm like, no, alt control delete, alt control delete, alt control delete. And then I left it at, let's just say, A plus B equals C. I get up the next day. What do I experience? A plus B equals C. That night, it starts again. And I start going, okay. And I forgot for a second that I'm observing this inner workings of my imagination. And I snapped and I went, oh, wait a minute. Don't play with fire. Now you ready? Yes. So I went in simulation 1, simulation 2, boom. And what happens? The next thing, I get up and it happens. I mean, I'm telling you, verbatim. Now, the third night was last night, and I have an event tonight. And I did the same thing, simulation, simulation, simulation. And I don't want to expect anything, but I have a feeling it's probably going to go the way that I played it out in my head. So 2 questions. One, this is to me like a higher skill that's been elevated, or a skill that's been elevated, a skill set that's been elevated, because it's really more than one thing. And there's a part of me that's not surprised, but there's a part of me, like you said, what my soul said, oh, you ain't seen nothing yet, which is that's a little bit You know, I'm formidable. You're like, okay, wait a minute. You know, because you really got to be responsible. I guess that's the second part of what I'm saying. I don't see how. The second question is, I don't see how with this collective energy that we all create can be superseded by at some level by a lack of responsibility, or I just don't see how it can be marred or you know, thrown off. I mean, I suppose it's possible, but it just seems like that it's inevitable. This is all inevitable to me. I know that was a bunch of
Yeah,
but
it feels that way for you because of you have that knowing that this is the direction we're going and we're not going to stop. That's it, you know. So the whole thing with even what you were saying about manifestation and so forth, the manifestation has served, but at the same time, what we're doing now, we have shifted and we're shifting. More of us are shifting away from manifestation to creation. The difference between the two, manifestation is manifesting or duplicating what already exists, what has already been thought of, what has already been experienced, what is in the field as a memory. Creation is using raw, pure consciousness and achieving higher levels of that has not been experienced and so forth. And it doesn't have the same levels of barriers in the sense, what can we possibly do? When we allow the creation aspect, our imagination in creator mode, then it says all possibilities, but it's not, it doesn't even go beyond possibilities. What can we design and shape and create? It's not even a possibility, is let me play, let me invent, let me access all that I can, and that's going to continue to expand. So that's part of what we have and are going through. The ego mind's going to say different things, but that's being sent a task right now. It's being challenged so it can break down the barriers, and it's going to lose more of its grip as you go along. And the thing is, as you play more and expand more, and even in that imagination part, you're already streaming it through the whole collective. So more people are just picking up those little sparkles of that and igniting themselves. And not that they're taking yours, you're igniting that. But, oh, wow, I could do that too. Wow, let's step into it. Let's go play with it and so forth. And the barriers that would have been there are becoming less and less impeding for it to stop us from going there. So the thing is, we're in an unlimited creation, and we haven't been exploring that unlimitedness, but now we're almost like we're giving ourselves the permission and also getting a glimpse of what that even looks like and even getting a taste of it. Some of it in our experiential realm, in what we see in this focus point, but also in the dream state, but also there is in the mind when we're envisioning or even getting a glimpse of that, you're already in that field and you're already trying to, I say try, you're already experimenting in the constructing of that and seeing how, and the moment you construct it, you're actually creating a simulation of it. And others will get involved in that simulation and see if that simulation needs to be tweaked and if it can bring that layer into. So it's an overlay. So here's the world. I'm trying to get in front of the camera. Here's the world, and you're putting that overlay of that simulation, and it will bleed through and it become part of it. And then there's a transition of the old into that simulation. And then another simulation actually bleeds through. So it's like layers of color.
yeah.
To actually accentuate the spectrum, because we haven't been living that full spectrum, and we're bringing in layers of those spectrums to illuminate and bring forth more of those spectrums. That's kind of what we're all doing to some degree or another, depending on.
Everybody has a layer. Like, you know, when you work with Paint, the app, that's what they call it, layer 1, layer 2, and you just lay on top, right?
Yeah.
You just lay things on top.
And you're enriching it. You're actually bringing more depth to it. You're bringing more, sensorial, because even looking at it, it's sensorially enriching. It brings the realism, the texture, and all of that stuff. I'm just using words that we can relate with, but that's the texture of life, texture of our relationship with what we create as a playground with each other and so forth, and the depth of it. And that's the thing is, we've been, if you want to use it as an analogy, we've been living in a black and white world, okay, the polarity world, but now we're bringing color to it, the richness of it, where you're blending and adding layers and layers and layers of colors, of textures, of brilliance, and so forth.
I'm curious about something too, and it's not about me. I'm trying to ask a question in regard to what our experience might look like, at least part of it. So I've noticed over the past 2 months that it's been more of a challenge to come on and do these shows. Like doing one, no problem. Two, it's a three, and they're not bad experiences by any means at all. But what I'm finding is, and I'm not even really just referring to who I'm speaking with on the other side of the screen. It's more of this, like a vortex, basically. Like everybody's, I feel like an empath would. All of this energy, and here we go back with the ball, right? It's like this big ball of energy with electricity running all through it, and I find that it takes, and not in a bad way. I don't want to sound bad, but it takes more for me to be present. Yet I'm more present than I've ever been. And at the same time, when I get out of the situation, I'm flat on my back, you know, either proverbially or literally, figuratively or literally. And and I'm just wondering if things that involve, let's say, the five senses, particularly speaking, listening. I'm wondering if things like that are going to be less applicable because there'll be other means of, or say, a more fluid or natural uh, or synergetic way of communicating and coming together. I mean, does that make sense? Like, is this normal?
Well, the thing is too, you're right. The fact of there's different accentuated different levels of communication that already exist, that we already are experiencing. It's more of a shift of saying it's not about volume, but the actual content. So sometimes we get caught up in that. We got to create, and push. At the same time, and there's an oversaturation, but now it's like each one is going to have even much more spectrum in it. It's going to have more oomph, but we don't have to do as many because it gives time for integration, time to utilize instead of overwhelm for a lot of people, for example. So what happens is, in the space between the different ones that you do, will give, there's that momentum is already going. You already are still emanating all of that, and the individuals are there already creating more alignment. So there is less of less effort required from a human perspective of putting stuff out, but then there's more of that natural part coming through. So look at it this way, Todd. Every experience that you're having, every aha, every illumination that happens, every transition that you experience, every event that happens within yourself is not just localized for you.
Right.
The moment you have it, it's being transmitted.
Right.
In a big way. So that does not limit you in any way, saying, okay, now I got to go and do this or that, whatever it is, because you're tied into everybody. And look at it this way: everybody that's ever been on the show, I'm not even talking about the people that speak or that you interview or communicate with. We're talking about anybody that's even listened to it.
Right.
the moment they've done that, they've already created a link. And even if they're not watching everything or watching some, they're already receiving more and more of it. And then they will be drawn to watch something else at some point because of the fact that they need the next part of it, but they don't need as much. So you're going to notice that you're going to be more powerfully impactful with less.
Yeah, I can see that, what you're saying. I can see that the the perspective is like when I look at the field.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's more looking at the field, because I can look at the field, but I'm not looking at myself. But I can see what you're saying. I don't think I can put it into words, but I can see where you look at the energetics. You're not looking at the literal, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, but I know it has something to do with the way that we're going to experience things. I know, because we can actually see they're already changing now. But I can see that there's something happening, and I know telepathy has something to do with it, and I know because another thing that's happened is this, and this has been going on like a couple of weeks, and it's probably happened acutely like 5 times.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking to somebody on the show, they're telling me a story. I'm not consciously trying to do anything, and so they're telling me a story about them and their friend, this friend and that friend. And all of a sudden, I'm standing with them. I'm in the experience. I'm observing. I'm more than observing. I'm actually feeling everything. I'm like, I am the experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it just happens out of the blue, right? Like I totally get. I know everything that happened. I know what it smelled like. I know, you know what I mean? Like
Yep.
that to me might be a precursor to what we've got coming in. But like you said, my soul said a while ago, you hadn't seen nothing yet. Thank you for that one. And I'm the one that said, can you tell them to make it a little bit smoother? And you're like, well, are you kidding? You're the one that keeps saying to raise up the stakes.
Yeah, exactly.
And then I got my just due there. Hey, I'm going to have to go meet my son. And
Yep. Perfect.
yeah, it is perfect. And thank you for giving me that early in the show, that bit of advice. I know you didn't mean it for me directly, but I certainly heard it. So I know Kimberly's in the house. Everybody, we're hoping to see Kimberly and Franco in Sedona on May 28th, 29th, and 30th as one of the keynote speakers. We would. He's as much a part of this as anybody, including myself and Kimberly as well. But let's please honor them. He's got another segment tomorrow. It's going to be on presence, which there's probably nothing more important. But if Kimberly, if you could put up you guys' PayPal, then I could copy and paste it, or maybe send it to me on Messenger, and I can copy and paste it and put it on all 14 platforms. And I really would ask every one of you to join Soulogy in supporting Kimberly and Franco for all that they do and have done and will continue to do, because it's vital. This stuff is going to be pure gold for many, many people in the days to come that are just poking their head through the through the curtain and finding the little man behind the booth. But yeah, again, I just want to say thanks, Franco, and I hope to see you, both of you, in
Yeah,
May.
I look absolutely. I look forward to it. First to meet you guys in person, but also to connect with people. And I'm really ready to really connect with people in person again after quite some time. So
That
uh,
would be very cool.
yeah, it's beautiful.
Well, here's hang on, let me make sure I got this.
And the thing is, the beauty of it all, like you were saying, there's the wrap up, is that when we're connecting. As we move forward, we're going to find ourselves in a very powerful way where communication is so amplified without saying so much.
Right,
Just
right.
there's such a depth, because you have to understand, when we use words, when we trying to, it limits. You, like you said, you can't find the words, but you can't even. We don't even have the words yet to even explain or to things. So we'll be able to transmit visions and levels of knowing. All of that um, will be so easily and so powerfully available, and that's what we're doing as we go along.
Right on. I'm just telling Kimberly that we shared it on all platforms. Thank you for sending it to me. You guys, let's support him. You know, it's I saw a funny meme the other day, and it had this guy, and he was in the top part said, "Light workers are going to charge for what they do, which you don't, by the way. You know, I mean, like only on the retreat type things, which is understandable. But and then the next thing, he had his refrigerator open, and there was no food in it." So there was a wordless, yeah. But yeah, this is good. I
Yeah,
feel good about. I feel good about.
yeah, we put content out. We don't charge for the content, but we also realize that we're also, living in a world where it requires,
Yeah,
resources and so forth. So it's really about that. It's to play
of
the
course.
hey, you know how much platforms cost, how much life costs. So in a sense, you let people contribute and so forth. It's not like I'm restricting anything, and you don't either. Nobody does. It's when you're coming from the heart, you share from the heart, and then if people feel from the heart to support you, they do. If not,
That's right. We do, and we all do, and everybody pays it forward one way or the other.
okay. Well,
So,
enjoy your time with your son.
oh, I will, and I'll see you next time. You take care.
Okay.
All right. See y'all later.